GM, welcome friends back to another episode of the Web3 Academy podcast. It is the weekly news roll-up. And today you might, if you're watching on YouTube, you might see a different face here with me doing the roll-up. It's usually my co-host, Jay Hamilton, but he is on vacation, I think somewhere in the Netherlands right now. I actually don't know where he is. But we have another beautiful face here with us, and it is our boy, Jeff Kauffman Jr. He is actually a previous guest on the show many months ago. I don't even know how long it was now. But Jeff is a big brain in Web3, and I'm super excited to have him on here to discuss some of the news. But it's going to be a bit of a different episode because we're going to discuss some of the highlights and the big news, but we're going to actually dive into a lot of what's going on over at Jump and the community that they're building. They've just launched some NFTs to their community, and they're just doing some really cool stuff. And so I want to talk about how to build community and how to do it the right way. And I think Jump is just like the best example in this space. So we're going to dive into that near the end. Before we do though, we are going to talk about, some really cool stuff going on. Eminem and Snoop Dogg are showing off their Bored Ape Yacht Club in the metaverse and on MTV. That's crazy. More stuff with Facebook and Instagram launching NFTs. We are going to talk about Walking Dead launching a blockchain game. That's really cool. So lots of stuff. But first, Jeff, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here.
Super pumped to be here. And I always love talking about the news. There's always so much to talk about. There's stuff on here that I feel like I'm keeping up with the news pretty well, but there's already some highlights that we're going to cover that you brought up that I wasn't aware about. So yeah, man, the keeping up with crypto is tough. These roll-ups are always fun. And a lot to unpack. So I'm pumped to be here.
Absolutely. Jeff, give me a quick background of yourself, just for the listeners, in case any of them didn't see the episode way before, which, by the way, go back and listen to that. It's a sick ass episode. But Jeff, tell us about Parachute. Tell us about Jump. What's going on in that world?
Yeah. So I would say the highlights are I spent 15 years in the marketing and advertising world, big agency world, working with brands like Chick-fil-A, Home Depot, Dr. Pepper, GameStop, ran GameStop Social for like 8 years. So that's my background. Got my career started on MySpace in 2005, building community and social and all that good stuff.
Classic.
Made the switch to Web3, just trying to stay on the cusp of innovation and honestly just trying to have fun, pushing the boundaries of what's possible and trying stuff that nobody's ever tried. It just keeps things fun and interesting every single day. And so in order to do that, launched Parachute and Jump. Web3 is so different and so hard for legacy institutions to truly wrap their head around. I felt like it was time for me to truly spread my wings, jump out of corporate America, leave a very good gig behind, and just try to do something sort of entrepreneurial. And that's where Parachute came from. So jumping out of a very cushy airplane, I needed a parachute. So I called my new venture Parachute, and I didn't know what it was going to do, but it was my parachute. And so, that also ties into the fact that I've made 1,800 skydives as like a hobby. So big time skydiver, jumping out of corporate America, called my operation Parachute. And that kind of like blended into this concept of what I wanted to do, which was and is sort of the tagline for Parachute now, which is build high performance parachutes for the next generation of online communities, which you could probably pull out online and just say communities, but that's what I'm doing. And Jump was the first project for that, which is building community for essentially the professional world that I came from, which is the enterprise marketing and advertising world. Bunch of early adopters, bunch of forward-thinking people, bunch of people that want to experiment and play and talk about all this new stuff. I couldn't think of a better community to build for and learn with and add value to than this network of people that I've spent really the last 15 years living and breathing, building brands using cutting edge digital stuff.
And shout out to the Jump community. Hopefully, many of you are listening today. We've got some of your news that we're sharing in here, but you guys do an awesome job. You guys have probably the best Discord I think I've seen in Web3. So kudos, Jeff, to you, but kudos to the whole Jump squad. I'm actually in the Safari DAO growth. I don't know, cohort right now. And there's a bunch of jumpers in there and they were all celebrating yesterday too. And I was like, jumpers are everywhere.
Yeah.
So we'll dive a lot more into Jump, but we're gonna do that more near the end of the show. We got to make sure that we cover the news because we got to make sure that everyone is up to date. Because like you said, there's just so much happening. It's kind of insane. And so we got to keep you up to date. And that's the whole point in this episode here. I guess one other thing you forgot, well, I don't think you forgot, you probably just didn't mean to mention it, but Jeff also launched a very highly successful denim store. You just tell me about before this podcast. So he's a serial entrepreneur at this point.
Yeah. Well, we will just say COVID wrecked the denim store. It actually was. Yes, it was Texas's #1 denim store. It was awesome. If you Google Deep Ellum denim, you'll find articles about how a couple ad agency guys launched a denim store. But COVID wrecked it. And I will say that, that transition of, let me just say, running a physical real world business, dealing with lease agreements, inventory, like that stuff is a different beast than like just bits and code and operating digitally. I'll say I like the digital business models much more than the physical, but the physical business model was a party. Let's just say that the denim store was a good party. Drank way too much.
Yeah. So maybe it was a good thing then.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see up on the screen here for those that are watching, we're about to talk about the metaverse. So a whole different type of business. Before we do that though, Jeff, we always start our roll up with a little bit of gratitude. So why don't you tell me and the listeners, what are you grateful for today?
So one sort of category, but there's 3 components to it. So first, tomorrow I'm headed to Montana for my brother's bachelor party. Super pumped for his wedding in a month. So I'm just excited to be able to go to Montana with my dad, my brother, a couple of good friends for the whole weekend. Also grateful for my new computer, which I'm on today. Like getting a new machine is just like unbelievable. And one of the guys going on the bachelor party runs one of the Apple stores here in Dallas, and he hooked me up with a killer discount. So super grateful for all of that. And then obviously we did a reshuffle. We were going to record tomorrow. I goofed, saw that, oh man, I'm going to be at the airport flying, all that stuff. And so you rescheduled. So there's a lot going on around bachelor party weekend, and I'm just grateful for all of it.
Love it. I love it. My gratitude for today is you, Jeff. I'm super grateful that you're here and that the show goes on. We get to do another show. I was like, do I do it by myself? Because I didn't want to take Jay out of vacation. He's taking the week right off. No going in Slack, no going on Twitter, no going in Discord. And I was like, you know what? Jeff's the guy. The guy I got to get on here. And you were like, hell's yeah, sounds fun.
Honestly,
and, immediately.
Anytime you need a sub for this show, you just hit me up.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. All right, let's get into the first piece of news for the day, which I don't know when this happened. I think it was Sunday. A partnership between Yuga Labs and MTV. Snoop Dogg and Eminem did a performance on MTV, and they used their Bored Apes to perform, I guess, the VMAs, the Video Music Awards. And they did it inside of the Other Side metaverse. So I don't know if anyone saw it, but I have it up on the screen, and you can see like they did a whole song. It's 4 minutes long, and it was literally them. They smoked some weed, some big ass joint on a couch, and all of a sudden they like entered the Other Side metaverse, and they were singing from their like Bored Apes. And the graphics and stuff look pretty legit. It looks kind of cool. What are your thoughts here, Jeff?
Yeah. So whenever I see stuff like this, my head always goes to like some of the behind the scenes that pulled this together. So you've got Other Side metaverse, you've got Snoop, you've got MTV. And I kind of start to think about like, okay, the Yuga empire that's growing has clearly established a mega relationship with Snoop. They've got some sort of deal that they've worked out. And then you've got MTV, and I'm sure Snoop really helps that sort of connection into the ecosystem. Obviously, Eminem is inside of Snoop's sort of universe that he's created over the past couple of decades. And so, yeah, it's like, when you think about other side metaverse, like, well, this is the best marketing and advertising you could ever get. Like, as far as just building the other side brand, like, come on, you've got the other side brand. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's now being associated, right? It's pulling off of Snoop's brand. It's pulling off MTV's brand. They're clearly targeting a younger generation, which is always smart when you're looking at new technology and whatnot. So I'm just fascinated by like watching new brands come to life, especially this quickly, and what this is doing for sort of like building the other side brand, as well as continuing to build the Bored Ape brand. But I think that's like an interesting distinction is you've got the Yuga brand, you've got the Bored Ape brand, but then you also have the other side brand, which is just now starting to come to life. And to me, this was like one of those big moments where like other side was put front and center and is starting to, you know, get the main stage.
And we need these big centralized companies to go and make these partnerships with people like Snoop Dogg and MTV and all this kind of stuff. Like, this is what helps NFTs and whatever else these guys are up to go mainstream, right?
Yeah.
This is where you get this stuff in front of, I don't know how many people watch the VMAs, but I would assume tens of millions, maybe more. I don't know. So I think that's huge. Why do you think Snoop Dogg is doing this? I'm just curious. Where do you think like Yuga Labs is paying him, or like, where do you think, like, what's his incentive? I know he owns a Bored Ape Yacht Club, but like, I don't think that's his incentive, is he's trying to drive the value of his NFT.
Oh, he's either got some sort of equity stake. You know, the way a lot of startup rounds or like funding rounds are pulled together, there's something called a celebrity round, if like that rings a bell. And so like it wouldn't be surprising to me if Snoop somehow, you know, got the invitation to be in the celebrity round of that latest Yuga, that massive Yuga raise, right? So now Snoop has some skin in the game, but that doesn't mean that Snoop works for free, right? You still have to license his brand and whatnot. But when you have that sort of double-edged or that double-sided alignment or multi-pronged alignment where you've got equity and you've got sort of the licensing contract, you're really going to bring a lot more to the table. My guess is Snoop's doing something like that. It's very common for, you know, basically the whole celebrity, whether it's musicians, rappers, athletes, just the whole landscape of like celebrity. They've started to realize like, no, we don't want to just be, we don't want the endorsement deal. Like, we want skin in the game. We want equity. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some equity in Yuga, and then he's probably got some sort of licensing spokesperson endorsement contract. And he's just going to work. And then, you know, just as far as Snoop goes, he's been on the cusp of innovation, both culturally and technologically. And when you can combine, you know, being on the forefront culturally and technologically, you're just gonna take yourself to the next level. And Snoop has always done that. So he's just a brilliant artist, cultural type of person, but also business person and entrepreneur.
Unbelievable business person. And actually, he's also launched his own NFT collection. I believe it's a collection of avatars. I'm not sure in what. I think it's in CryptoVoxels or Sam.
I want to say it was Sandbox. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Sandbox. So, I mean, he's obviously incentivized to continue to grow and brand the NFT space anyway. And so I think he's coming at it from all angles, right?
Totally. That's
what you do.
That's a great point from just a strategy perspective. Attach yourself to something that's like really legit, right? so he's attaching himself to Yuga and Other Side and Bored Ape. So then he gets that brand halo effect. We use marketing terms. He gets that affinity effect now on his brand. And then that gives him the credibility to come over here and launch his own businesses and projects on his own.
And I think the big thing to understand too is like, okay, maybe you didn't get in on the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you don't own one, and okay, that sucks. But it's like, we actually should all be rooting for Bored Ape Yacht Club to do well, because if they do well, that puts NFTs on the map. It's kind of like when the internet first launched, we needed the first, we needed Amazon or whatever the first one was that really took off. We needed that because that brought the users to the internet. It gave them a reason to actually use it. And so same with Web3, right? We need people to get wallets. And if, Bored Ape Yacht Club is going to keep launching tokens and do all these things, and that's going to get users to actually get familiar with NFTs and get wallets, like that's great for the space. So we should be rooting them on and hoping they just keep keeping on. Speaking of that, this is probably one of the biggest things that can happen in Web3 right now. We've talked about this a few times, and this is Meta or Facebook and Instagram, which is allowing you to post digital collectibles, is what they're calling it. It's actually NFTs, non-fungible tokens, but you can just post them to your social feed now. It's not to everyone, but they've opened it up to 100 countries, but it's just select people at the moment. It just depends. I think they're doing like tests. So like if you happen to be part of the subset, you get it. If you're not, you don't see it yet. I'm not, so I don't see it. But thankfully, the founder of Wallet Connect, he does. So he actually shared some pictures, which I have up on the screen. Basically, you just click settings, and underneath, like where it says your activity, your QR code, all that stuff, there's a spot that just says digital collectibles, and you can click on it and you can connect your wallet. You can connect Coinbase Wallet, Dapper, MetaMask, Rainbow, Trust Wallet, and boom, it connects right in. And what the founder of Wallet Connect said was, this is the largest app to date supporting Wallet Connect protocol. And this would be true of all of the other wallets I just listed. I don't think you're going to get any other app that's bigger than these. But this is a big deal. When it fully gets out to everyone, it'll be super cool. I wish I could see it. What is your take on this? You actually had a lot to say on this weeks ago or months ago, maybe when they first announced. I'm curious what your thoughts are on Instagram bringing in these NFTs now.
I don't have a personal Instagram account, but I was just logging into the Deep Ellum Denim former best denim shop. Now just an Instagram of that maybe me and my buddy will post our latest sort of denim buys on. Do not have access to it yet. So I'm going to stay on the lookout for that. But we cannot underestimate how massive this is. I think it's both good and bad. But like it's necessary. We're not going to get around it. We can't stop Meta and Facebook and Instagram from being a business and looking at this space and building around it. And they're about to take basically Web3 to every person with an internet connection. So not everybody around the world, but everybody with an internet connection, which I think is, or at least like 70% of people with an internet connection. When you combine Facebook, Meta, WhatsApp, it's like
3 billion. Yeah, I think it's 3 billion at this point.
I think there's 4 billion internet users. And just like tangent a little bit, like in a few years, you'll have Elon Musk, Starlink, and beaming internet to like literally everybody. So like in the next 10 years, 3 billion more people are going to come online. Like, whoa, like, wait, the economy is going to double in size, at least in number of people. And then these apps are going to make their way to them. And they'll be like literally their first experience with the internet. Think about this. First experience with the internet has crypto in it and has wallets. Like we always kind of have to remember that us as humans, like the older you get, the less you want to like experiment with new things. And then also when you just form habits, the less you're open to new things. So you've got like basically by the time the rest of the world, another 3 billion people get internet, they're going to get a crypto version, a mobile version of the internet. And like, they're going to be totally open to it and they're just going to use it. And
Right.
when we talk about like massive change over time, um, the emerging markets actually adopted mobile much faster than the US, because we were so like, our primary device was our computers, versus in emerging markets, their primary devices were their mobile phones. And so they went full on mobile much faster, and actually have a much more complex and sophisticated use of mobile. And so we might see that with these emerging markets, especially because of the financial needs that they have and the banking needs that they have. And so when I see this move, I start to kind of connect it to all of that and think about
That's interesting.
how massive it is.
They're
And
like, yo, why is it called Web3? This is Web1 for us.
yeah, exactly. They're like, wait, I'm interacting with Web3. No, this is the first version of the internet. And so then you sort of start to look at like, just where does this go? Because when we talk about like, okay, cool, Facebook, Instagram, they're doing digital collectibles, NFTs, they're basically normalizing this, their brand being associated with digital collectibles, and just this buying pictures and wallets. Just the idea of like Instagram showing you like a wallet. Instagram's a very trusted brand. And those that still use Facebook trust Facebook, right? People that don't use those platforms have a negative opinion, obviously. But when you start to introduce these native Web3 features, and it like, things always need to come through that friend, right? Or that trusted source. Sometimes that's a friend. A lot of the times it's a business, right?
Yeah, true.
And so the fact that Wallet Connect, there's so many people, you probably talk to these people. Everybody who's listening to this has friends. Everybody who's listening to this is like cutting edge, right? They're like on the forefront. But all of our friends, you go ask them about NFTs and crypto, and it's just like, oh, scary, 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 still scary. But now you have these trusted brands like Instagram and Facebook, at least to the people that use them, starting to show you, hey, here's a wallet, here's a digital collectible, buy this, unlock this, gain access to this. What that's going to do for crypto and Web3 at large is just insane.
Yeah, completely agree. Now, I know you also there's some bad to it, and this is in terms of just, they can rug pull you at any time, they control the data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. I don't want to get too far into that just for the sake of time. So we actually have the contrast to this. Stani, who's the founder of Aave and also Lens Protocol, he just posted out and said, the stack of building composable decentralized social. So if we want to, I don't want to say fight against Facebook and Instagram, but maybe we do, and we want to build our own, it's in the works. It's somewhat possible. I wouldn't say that we are anywhere close to actually being able to compete at the level of Facebook and Instagram, but we have Lens Protocol for publishing and connections, right? This is sort of your like foundational layer, where you have your profile, which is in the form of an NFT, all your posts are in the form of NFT, and you can have apps built on top of that. So you can have your Instagram, your YouTube, your Twitter, and everything built on top of Lens Protocol. You have Graph Protocol for indexing data. You have Sapana for your search. I guess that's like your Google. You have JPEG for curation, Lit Protocol for token gated content. So now there's actually new features that Instagram and those don't even have. And then the big problem with Web3 right now, which is we don't really have a way to communicate. XMTP, I guess, is one of them, but that's for direct messages as well. So we're starting to build the applications that are needed to have our own social platform that isn't owned by Mark Zuckerberg anymore. And what's cool is they can be a bunch of different companies all building different components of it, and they all are composable and decentralized and work together. And so that to me is really, really cool. Do you think that this ends up taking over Facebook and Instagram in that one day, or do you think there's just no chance? I'm curious.
Absolutely 100% will not take over Instagram and Facebook. Will this be successful? 100%. We're going to live in a parallel world. One of the things that this whole notion of Web 2 to Web 3 is like, it's an upgrade, but it's not the same as like, oh, we're going to like totally deprecate Web 2 anytime soon.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can just go throughout history where like it takes decades for the new thing to totally replace the old thing. And then also like, and that's just on like a fundamental like product level. But on a brand level, brands can start to transition over time into new spaces. So like you take a look at New York Times, old print publishing. Social media came around, digital came around. Yeah, newspaper is dead, but they've very much made the transition, and the New York Times is thriving. Their
Oh
business is
yeah.
really good. They're kind of setting a gold standard. And then you see Time Magazine really adopting Web3. And so, yeah, I think that, and also I think we need some centralized services. I'm not sort of like a decentralized maxi. I think like you have to have certain centralized services. Like, it's kind of like, I kind of like boil it down to like, I want to live in a city that's like has sort of this decentralized ethos, or a country that kind of has that, where you have these rules but you have autonomy and all of that. But I don't want my house to be decentralized. Like I want my house to be highly
Yours.
centralized, right? And I want certain aspects that of like community that I'm in, like these smaller pockets, I want them to be, and then really what I want is choice. And I think having choice is good. And I think that the highly centralized platforms of the world will do certain things that and can accomplish certain things that the centralized side of the world can
Yeah.
never accomplish, or that the decentralized can never. So I think what we'll start to see is like, okay, if you're going down the decentralized path, then you're able to solve certain kinds of problems better than the centralized version. And then if you choose a centralized strategy, then you're going to be able to solve certain types of problems better. And really, like, I look at centralized versus decentralized as strategy paths, and like, okay, based off of what we're trying to achieve, which strategy do we want to deploy, and then go with that route. Like one of the biggest reasons for decentralization is sort of not being able to have just authority come in and like crack down on you. Well,
Limit risk.
yeah, exactly. But if you're not really worried about that, like maybe you don't need that feature in your strategy. So I'm super excited about what this post has shared. It's going to open up a whole new world of possibility and interaction and engagement. I can tell you 90% of my time is going to be spent in this world. But like the meta is going to be Facebook, Twitter, all of that is going to be super successful in their own right.
The reason I think that this stuff, the decentralized versions and the composable stuff is going to be successful is because the people who are creating the content, they are the ones that want to earn money. And you can't, I mean, you can do it on Facebook and stuff, but the Facebook has like 100% take rate. You have to then create products and things to monetize, whereas your content can be monetized on things like Lens Protocol. And so the content creators are going to go here because they're treated best here. And when the good content creators go here, well, the people who don't create content, but they view good content, they're going to go follow them over there because they want to see what their favorite content creator is creating, right? So I just think the incentives are aligned over here on this side. And what that does to Instagram, I don't know. They'll adapt, I'm sure, and they'll figure it out. Maybe one day Instagram deploys on top of Lens Protocol. That would be like, day that happens, I'm gonna bow to Stani for sure if that ever happens.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm super pumped for this.
Absolutely. Okay, Kingship. So this is something going on here in the world of NFTs. Bored Ape Yacht Clubs again, of course, they're everywhere. This is M&Ms, those tasty little chocolates that we all love. They have launched, I don't even know what they've launched. What is Kingship? Why don't you tell me what this is, Jeff, if you even know?
Yeah. So what's fascinating to me about headlines like this is, again, it kind of goes back to the trusted brands that people know, the reach of these brands. So before we get into sort of like Bored Ape and M&Ms and Kingship, like let's just first talk about the reach that M&Ms have. You can basically walk into any grocery store and any convenience store or any checkout aisle, and you're going to have M&Ms. So the brand reach of M&Ms is just huge, right? They're not all over the internet per se, but you can't get away from them across these convenience stores and grocery stores and checkout aisles and all of that stuff. And so now I don't think that this partnership where they're slapping, this is very simple. License some Bored Apes, put them on packaging, not kind of rocket science. That's not like the super interesting thing. Strategy wise, why is M&Ms trying to do this? Brands that are like, it's like any type of beverage or candy or anything like that. Like you've got to stay relevant. You've got to stay fresh. And so that's why they're doing stuff like this. How do you associate M&Ms with the most relevant thing? Therefore, M&Ms is relevant and fresh, right?
Well, and they know there's people talking about Bored Ape Yacht Clubs right now. And it's like right now I have an M&Ms website up on my screen.
Right.
When in the world would I ever be doing that, broadcasting the M&Ms? I would never. But
exactly.
I am, because they have Bored Ape Yacht Club, right?
And if you, as a marketer, and as a brand, some of the hardest people to reach are people who are on the cutting edge, right? We don't consume traditional media at the rate that 50, 60-year-old aunt and uncle do, right?
Yeah.
So
we're mom and dad.
Yeah, exactly. We're in these weird places. Like we're listening to these niche podcasts and we're hanging out in Discord. How do you reach us? How do you talk to us as a brand? You can't. Like this is the type of strategy though that's like, oh wow, this is earned media. Everybody watching this, you and I, like boom, M&Ms. Next time I see M&Ms, I'm gonna be a little happier about their brand because
I'm buy a bag.
Yeah, I'm like, M&Ms, you get me. You're paying attention to what I care about. And you know what? Give me some M&Ms, peanut M&Ms for sure. And especially peanut M&Ms when I'm at the movie, because they go really well with popcorn, which goes really well with the Dr. Pepper. So we'll just leave that there.
Are you shilling your old clients?
Yeah, exactly. So when you kind of unpack stuff like this, it's like, this is massive. Like this brand is trying to be relevant. They're trying to reach people that they can't reach through traditional means, i.e. they're doing that here. But then if they want to scale this and reach hundreds of millions of people, they actually have the platform and the distribution to do this. So this is just like the early stages. And then don't forget, who is M&M's owned by? Pop quiz. Who owns M&M's?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Kellogg's is my guess. Nestle.
You're gonna go, oh, Mars.
Really?
Mars.
But who's Mars owned by?
Mars Inc.
Okay.
So Mars kind of is obviously a candy itself, but Mars Inc. is also a big, massive like holding company of all of these brands. Right.
Gotcha.
And so you just kind of connect those dots and you go, oh, M&M's is part of this huge empire of candy brands, similar to, Kellogg, the types of empires that, Kellogg, actually, I think Kellogg is owned by P&G or Procter and Gamble.
Can't remember.
Whatever.
It's a big conglomerate. The whole food industry is a big, massive conglomerate. It's
exactly. And so what we're seeing here though, is M&M's is not M&M's as a standalone brand. M&M's is part of a massive, massive machine that reaches 1 billion people in a different way than media does. So this is big.
Good call. Mars right there on the footer. Well done. Cool. Good on you, M&M's.
And we may or may not have the people who launched that in Jump's Discord.
Oh, there you go. Little alpha for you. The Jump Discord has anybody who's anybody is in there. So if you ever get a chance to get in there, get in because it's legit. The Walking Dead. I actually never watched The Walking Dead. Did you ever watch it?
I was super into the first couple of seasons, and then I don't know why I fell off. I fell off, but there was was a few seasons I was pretty glued in.
Yeah. Okay. So The Walking Dead, I mean, it's pretty big. It's pretty popular. I know a lot of people that are watching it or were watching it anyway. And they have launched a blockchain game is it on top of Gala Games, or Gala Games is the one who kind of helped them launch it?
Yeah.
What do you know about this game? Looks like there's some guns here, which I'm assuming are NFTs if I click on them. I don't know for sure, but that's just my assumption.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, this kind of goes back. I thought this was an interesting rollout because when you looked at, and we're not showing it here, but just to describe it, when you look at the Walking Dead tweet about this, nothing is mentioned about NFTs. Nothing is mentioned about digital collectibles or blockchain or crypto or anything of that nature. It was just like, we've launched a cool game. Go check it out.
Right.
And then when you go to like Gala, it actually might be interesting to go to like Gala's like homepage and their scroll down to the bottom and we can take a look at their about section. Yeah, about us down there. And then like even when if you look at Gala's homepage, you don't see a lot about crypto or blockchain or NFTs. You kind of have to dig into their about page. And then you start to see like, oh, this is very much a blockchain and crypto based company, obviously in the gaming category. And so to see them partnering and starting to roll this out is big. Not so, I mean, this is just, this is not surprising. I mean, it is surprising, but it's also not surprising. It's surprising from the standpoint of, you know, we're seeing some of the first applications and a different way to talk about gaming and blurring the lines between TV, games, and crypto, right? Like we're headed towards this future where we're like the entertainment brand. Like if you want to build an entertainment brand, you've got to build basically like appointment viewing experiences, like movies and hour-long episodic content, right? That's not going anywhere. At a certain point in the day, I want to sit down with my fiance and I don't want to work. I don't want to think. I just want to sit there for an hour and be entertained. Like that experience isn't going anywhere, but you're going to have to extend that into these other applications like video games, these augmented reality experiences. And it's all about immersion and being able to take people deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And some people will play at all levels. Some people will only play at sort of these certain like at the appointment viewing or the game or like the AR VR immersion, right? It's all you have to have this all encompassing sort of immersion strategy to build a true sort of entertainment brand like The Walking Dead.
And so the sentence here I've highlighted, they start off there about us is we believe the blockchain should be invisible in our games. And I absolutely love that because this is where it's all going, right? We talk about the DeFi mode all the time in the financial space where fintech will be the front and then it'll be the, you know, the Uniswaps and the Aves and stuff in the back. We won't actually like interact with these protocols like we do today. This is going to be, I mean, you see it with Instagram, Facebook, right? They're calling it digital collectibles. Yes, you got to connect a wallet, but that's about it. Otherwise, you stay in the Instagram app, yet you're interacting and using NFTs, but it's all inside that app. And I think all blockchain, like the battles that everyone has today in this space of like which blockchain's the best and which token and this and that, it's like none of that's going to matter in a few years from now. That's all going to be hidden. We're all just going to use normal games, normal movies, music, etc. And all this stuff is just going to be underneath of it all. And it's going to be powering it and powering the ownership capabilities of it, which is amazing. But we're not going to be interacting with like protocols in the blockchain like we are today. There's just absolutely no way.
Then and when you think about like which of these protocols and games and all of this are going to win, they're going to understand two things. They're going to understand that to the masses, they need to like really tone down what they're talking about in terms of like, you know, all of this lingo, and you make something hard for the masses to understand, they're going to like be scared and move on, right? People don't like to be wrong and they don't like to be scared. And so they're just going to move on. So you've got to be able to execute and talk to people, the masses like that. But then on the other side, you've got to be able to basically talk to your influencers, which are your early adopters, the 0.2% of people. This applies to every market and every product in every category of adoption curves and influence. And there's the 2% that influences the rest, right? The early majority, the mass market, like there's that classic bell curve of adoption. And so these brands like Gala Games, they're going to have a completely different strategy, but it's going to be way toned down, way more covert, where they're influencing the influencers, right? While also having this mass market strategy.
100%. I just wrote an article on how to explain Web3 to your mom. It literally started off, if you're saying the words decentralization or node or blockchain or any of this stuff, then they're already lost, right?
Yeah.
None of those words should be involved when you try to explain what Web3 is, or if you work in the space, what you're trying to do. None of that should be mentioned ever. All right, let's move along. We've got a few more left, and then we're going to dive into Jump. But before we do that, we have some opportunities for the listeners. Impact Digital Marketing, which is mine and Jay's agency, which works with some of the top crypto and Web3 media platforms in the space. We're hiring, and we're actually doing a lot of hiring. We are hiring 3 positions. So we are looking for a content/copywriter. So if you are a wordsmith, there is a job application, job description, and then an application inside the show notes of this podcast. So if you're a wordsmith, we want you, we need you. And if you love Web3, that's a requirement. So make sure to go apply if you're one of them. A lead gen specialist. So this is an ads person. So if you are familiar and experienced with ads on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Google, everything, whatever else, wherever they run ads, we want you. Again, we need you to be interested in Web3 and crypto. So if you are that, please apply. We would love to have you. And finally, the most important piece of content on the internet today, video. We need a video editor. And so we're looking for someone to edit long form, short form, whatever. We need lots of video being edited. So if that is you, again, the job description will be in the show notes. And this is for Web3 Academy, but it's also for some of our clients, which again are across the crypto Web3 space. So you need to be knowledgeable in Web3. Or at least passionate and willing to learn, right? You don't have to know it all, of course. But as long as you're willing to learn, then we're all in. We're fully remote, by the way. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can be anywhere in the world. We're more than happy to bring on people from all over. So yeah, hopefully you guys will apply, and thank you. Okay, so let's get into some other news here. We have Andrew Saunders, which is the former... what is he exactly? He worked at Amazon, and he's the former head of the branding department, I believe. Head of global branding.
Head of the global brand marketing effort and team, At
Amazon. He has now moved over and leaving that role to be the first CMO of Arbitrum. So we talk about Arbitrum all the time, which is a layer 2 scaling solution built on top of Ethereum. They now have a CMO, and that CMO is a good one. And he's coming all the way from the Web 2 world over at Amazon. So that is really cool. What I also found was really cool, I saw this tweet today, is that he's also officially a member of Jump. And so he says, Jumpers tweeting, see you in the air, and he puts the parachute emoji. So that's cool. Like we said, anyone who's anyone is inside of Jump. Anything you want to add to this, Jeff?
Yeah, I just get really excited about seeing transitions like this and seeing people that are in these prominent positions that are doing quite well for themselves. Like Amazon's not going anywhere. Amazon's going to be an incredible company for another 10 or 20 years. And then you have, even longer, right? Like Amazon's just going to be a part of our lives for the rest of our lives. And to see leaders like this basically exit what are really great opportunities. It's easy to be like, when you're in Web3 full time, to be like, oh, wait, like, of course, like Web3 is the future. That's where it at. Hey, when you're inside of a top 5 market cap company and you're a leader, life is good and life can be cush. So the fact that like he's leaving and going on this adventure, it definitely says a lot about like the type of personality. It's someone that really wants an adventure and wants to be challenged in ways that like Amazon just quite frankly will never be able to really challenge you. So I'm really excited about this. One of the things that always got me excited about Web3 and what's going on is I was always like, when the internet was getting going, I was middle school and high school. I really had no idea like what was really happening and didn't understand business at all. Well, when I finally get into my professional career, I'm super like jealous of this crazy innovative time that happened. And even though I was a part of the rise of social and mobile, that was not as impactful and mind-blowing and changing as the internet era was. And so the Web3 era, though, is. In fact, I think it's almost more mind-blowing and hard to wrap your head around than the internet, or at least on par, right? And they're the same. And so when you see like this like CMO of Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum's powering Reddit's community points like system. So Arbitrum's going to be probably a player in the space for a really long time, and a household name from like the B2B layer, the behind the scenes layer, right? And the CMO of a Web3 blockchain, like this is like, you've never had this type of CMO before. If you kind of look at the eras of CMOs, you've got your basically like your physical goods CMOs, like the Mad Men era, right? Building all these like household names, Procter and Gamble, like that whole kind of era. Then you have the rise of the technology CMO, which is like IBM, Apple, Microsoft, all through like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that was a new type of CMO. Like, how do you market technology? That's weird. And then in the 90s, you have the internet CMO. Like, how do you market and brand this thing that has no physical element, right? That's just little pixels. Like, what does that mean? And how do you effectively do that? And now we have the Web3 CMO, which is a whole new beast. And so, Andrew here is charting new territory as building a brand for Arbitrum and what that means. And it's very similar to that like rise of like sort of the tech CMO and the internet CMO. This is a whole new sort of ball of wax to tackle.
It's funny that this is Arbitrum's first CMO. I'm pretty sure Arbitrum was like valued over in the billions at this point. I'm pretty sure.
Crazy. Yeah.
And they didn't have a CMO, like only Web3, right? They didn't even need it, but I love it. And I mean, every week I feel like we have an announcement of someone who's at, a Fortune 500 company that's leaving and heading to some sort of Web3 company. So it's just great to see. Absolutely love it. Okay. Our last take for this episode before we dive into Jump is just something that is making its way around the Twitterverse. So any of the listeners that aren't on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, a picture of Vitalik came out with a lovely lady, and I don't know where they are. They're at a conference, I believe, or something. But anyway, it's this picture of Vitalik. I don't know what's going on, but he's just standing there, and he looks like he has just a massive heart on.
That's it.
Like that's basically what this picture is. And it just made its way around Twitter. And the memes that came out of this were hilarious.
It's clearly Photoshopped if you're not, if you're just listening audio. Like someone basically was like, oh, we're gonna have like a lot of fun.
So fun.
We're gonna Photoshop this like photo of Vitalik and do something that's like kind of like rather embarrassing and kind of like making fun of him. But like Vitalik, he's so good at running with this and responding to this. And yeah, now his tweet that we've got pulled up here, his response to that photo of basically someone Photoshopping, a heart on in his pants. He says, I was thinking of the Ethereum merge, right?
What a legend.
What a legend. Like this is Elon Musk style, like social media PR, like, Tim Cook could never do this or wouldn't, right? The CEO of Microsoft, the CEO, like you got to be a certain type of brand and a certain type of person to pull this stuff off, but it's brilliant marketing.
I just looked. This is a fake Vitalik account.
Oh, I love it. I love
Even
it.
better. No way. Look at this.
That's amazing.
That's why we were searching for on Vitalik, so we could not get it. But Anyway, just so funny the memes going around crypto Twitter right now. We believe this all day because I saw this yesterday too, and I was like, no way, good job, Vitalik. Damn, it's a parody. I mean, it even says parody in his name.
It even says parody, and like, yeah, we like totally just like, oh, that's Vitalik.
It's so funny, but the amount of jokes of going long on ETH as a result of this picture on Twitter were just so funny.
It literally affected the price of ETH, which is just
it was right under.
Brilliant.
Yeah, right. All right, so that's a wrap of the news. We're going to keep the news bit a little bit short because I really want to jump into what is some of the best news, in my opinion. And this actually goes along with our NFT of the month. And so for those who are watching, they can already see what this is going to be. But for those who are listening, you might not know, but the NFT of the month is actually Jump. So Jump has just started releasing NFTs. I think you're on batch 2.
The second.
Second one. Yeah. And so I'm gonna let Jeff get into explaining kind of what they're doing here. But all I want to say from kind of an outside point of view is the way that Jump has managed this has been incredible to watch. I've been watching this for a while now, and they've really just focused on building community before anything. And the amount of effort that Jeff, he talks a lot about it on our original podcast we did months ago, of just like no automation in this community. It was full on like one-on-one calls every step of the way, just bringing on people who are in marketing and advertising, et cetera, just trying to get to know them, trying to understand what they want, and just building a community around that, right? And a learning experience around that. And that has just formed into so many things. They have a newsletter. I believe you guys have podcasts. You guys have events. There's just so many things. Like I said, everywhere I go, there's people saying, oh yeah, I'm part of Jump. I'm part of Jump. It's become like a household brand in Web3. And they did all this without a token. They had a value list token for a while, but they were just playing around with it using tip features in their Discord and that. And finally they were like, hey, let's make something of this. And this is basically now like a membership, and they're doing it via NFTs. Why don't you walk us through kind of your story here on this and sort of how you guys are launching this NFT, because I think it's pretty incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, I this is my favorite subject right here. Live and breathe, like wake up thinking about Jump and the community and what I can do for the community and all the conversations. But so there's a high level strategy that we have, that we've had from day one. I think everybody should have. This should just be strategy number 1. Communities launch tokens. Tokens don't launch communities. That's just been a line that has come from day one. So because of that sort of starting point, we've always gone down the path of just build community first, right? And the thought of like, again, it kind of goes back to everything in Web3 are just tools, right? The NFT isn't the strategy. The NFT is just a tool. And so we've had the existence of communities for a long time without NFTs, right? But crypto and Web3 gives those communities new superpowers. And I'm not saying like you couldn't launch a token first and then build community, totally possible. But
Bored Ape did it.
Yeah. Our approach was basically like, we're going to build community first and then launch. And it also is just like, we're trying to learn together and we're trying to grow together. And we're trying to teach by doing and experiencing. So, we spent the better part of a year and a half building community, really gelled as a community, and honestly didn't need a token to be a community. But when you have an NFT, you can do things that you can't do before. So going back to your tweet earlier about the decentralized social stack, there are things like, if we don't have a community NFT or some sort of token that links us, I like to think of NFTs as a social graph, right? Sometimes they're treated as art, sometimes a PFP, whatever. But in our case, the main thing is this NFT is a social graph. And in order for us to start to play more in a sophisticated way across the Web3 ecosystem and experiment, we need a token. So it is fundamental to like where we want to grow. But in order to launch it and build it, we've deployed a totally different strategy. So most strategies are, let's try to mint out in one day. And if it doesn't mint out, the project actually falls totally flat. And even some that do mint out fall flat, right? And when you look at 99% of NFTs, 99.9% that were ever launched, they don't sell out on day one. So it's actually a really bad idea to try to go sell out of NFTs on day one, because the odds are so stacked against you that you're actually going to do it. So what's better though is to design sort of a way to roll out an NFT. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we're pioneering. And I think as marketers and as brand builders, we are bringing a different flavor to how do you bring an NFT to life and a Web3 brand to life that is powered by all of this. And we're doing it through a series of what we're calling mint windows and onboarding. And so you're onboarding into Sky Club. And when you onboard into Sky Club, that means you're basically in the tokenized community within the Jump ecosystem. Because not everything within, Jump is going to be tokenized or fully Web3, but the Sky Club certainly is. And so we basically said, everybody who's been a part of the community before this date has a certain role in Discord. And keep in mind, 1 year ago, the Web3 space did not have the tools to execute this strategy. And so in a year from now, there's going to be a whole nother set of toolkits and ways to think about it, which is really awesome. But when we started on this journey, this toolkit did not exist. So we're basically using a stack of Discord, pre-mint, our DAO exchange invitation bot, and the way our smart contract is constructed to execute this strategy. So it's not a one tool sort of can pull it all together. You kind of have to have this stack, and then you have to have sort of the community buy-in and the participation, and all of that to really pull it off. Because without the community aspect, this strategy does not even exist. And so we basically seeded the Sky Club NFT to our community who is already in Jump. Really, kept it pretty low key and only posted stuff about it in our Discord announcements channel. So you had to be paying attention to even see it. So we didn't have like, oh, we got to mint this crazy amount. It's more like, no. We actually are okay with small mint numbers.
No hype, no speculators. Like
no hype.
The community is the ones that are holding the NFT. I love that.
That's actually, I'm glad you brought up the no hype and no speculation, because we designed the whole strategy to actually make it so that if you want to speculate on the NFT, you're going to look at this and go, absolutely not. Like if you're a trader or anything like that, you're going to say, hell no. Does that mean that this NFT can't accrue value, and that because that's a big thing about community sort of Web3 and community, is that like value flows to those who create the value, right? And so, the long-term strategy is that, hey, this NFT means something. There is a limited supply. We've built in the ability to increase at the end of 3 years, we can increase annually. But overall, there is still a scarcity aspect to the Sky Club token, because when you think about how many marketers there are in the world, 10 million easy, that are going to be obsessed with this stuff. There's going to be less than 20,000 NFTs for like the foreseeable next decade. But when you think about the power of like a 10 to 20,000 person network, that's really a community that's global, man, we can get some stuff done. So that's the launch, Sky Club NFT. We're rolling it out through a series of mint windows. And as members mint, they are able to invite a friend to the next mint window. So the NFT holdership base is 90% of NFTs are dictated of who holds it is dictated by the community, right?
Interesting. I like
that's how we'll grow. I don't know how many mint windows it will take to mint out the full supply, but it's very interesting that of the people who minted in the first mint window, no one listed for sale on secondary. So that's
That's a great metric. That
yeah,
is an incredible metric to look at. I love that.
well, one person
That's
listed for
interesting.
sale, but it was 300 ETH. So that doesn't like really count. Um, but yeah, it
That's more of a
just kind of,
meme.
it shows that like the community values what this means. It values the mission. It's bought in for the long term.
What
And
is the Sky Club? Can you give a breakdown of, or do we know what that's going to be yet? Or is it more like, hey, we're going to all join this together and then we're going to build out whatever the Sky Club actually means?
yeah, it's more the latter of that. Okay. So when you kind of think about like basically the brand ecosystem that is Parachute, Jump, and now Sky Club, think of those as different brands that play different roles. And they're actually on a spectrum of decentralization, with Parachute being the most centralized aspect. It's where taxes are paid and healthcare is held, and insurance when we rent a venue is held like by that entity, right? Very centralized, but serves a different purpose. Jump, much more of a decentralized community, but then it has aspects to it that are more centralized, like the email. Like I write that email, I curate it, or I produce it, right? But it's curated by the entire community. So you have this like basically this like centralized team that produces the website, creates the website, you know, sends out content, kind of does this stuff, but then the community is very just decentralized, very decentralized community. And now when you introduce this token at Sky Club and you have a group of token holders, when people start to really wrap your head around what you can do, how you can build off of a community, off of a tokenized community that's like actually a community, like I think people are gonna like members of the community and those outside of the community are once we all really understand what you can do, you're gonna go, oh, look, there's this massive worldwide network of really smart marketing and advertising people that span traditional brands, mega agencies, Web3 startups. They all hold this token, so I can see all of them on the blockchain. How do you go and engage and build around that? And that's where, like, if you truly have a community and it's tokenized, that's where like you get more of your true DAO like behavior that's truly decentralized and truly autonomous. And so that's the Sky Club ecosystem is largely going to be built by the members. With that said, Parachute, right? Like I'm going to spend so much time thinking about how do I build in and around this Sky Club holder group. But the reality is anybody can build in and around it, right? Whether you hold the token or not, you can build in and around it and you can interact with it. And so Parachute and Jump are going to work with Sky Club and Sky Club holders, but anyone that holds the token or doesn't can build in and around it as well. So like how that ecosystem is actually going to play out will depend on the ecosystem, right? But I will hopefully be, you know, a participant in it,
a big contributor. Absolutely.
Yep.
I love it. It's just a big talent pool of big brains that are marketers, advertisers, etc., that are all linked together via some social token, right? And the power of that is just massive. I have a question for you. We use the word community all the time, and everyone's like, I'm building a community in Web3. I'm building a community in Web3. What does that actually mean? Do you have a definition of community? And like, what does that really look like when you're building a community? Like, one, what does it mean? And like, what is the result of that? Like, how do you know you're like, oh, I have a good community? Like, what is that? Can you just tell me walk me through that a little bit? And we're sort of short for time. So like, this probably needs to be its own interview at some point. I think we're gonna have to get you on to do an actual full podcast. But give me the Cole's notes on that if you can.
Yeah. That's a big question. I look at it as a community, as a group of shared values and shared mission. And when you have those two things, you have a community. And we are a part of a lot of communities. I'm a part of obviously the jump community, but you and I are both a part of the Web3 community at large. We're probably both like, we like Ethereum a lot. So we're both a part of the Ethereum community. And so like when you start to think of those like kind of layers, and then there's all other types of communities. I was a part of the denim community. I was a part of the skydiving community. I'm a part of the agency and marketing world at large. You and I are both in the marketing community at large. And then we have all of these pockets. So like tactically trying to describe community is tough. And that's why I take it up to like shared mission, shared values, shared beliefs, shared interests. And when you start to share those things, you have a community. And then what happens when those people come together? They make stuff, they do stuff. And right, you don't really know what they're going to make or do. So if you can bring that shared mission, values, and purpose and all of that together, you have community. And then when you truly have community, interesting things start to happen.
I love it. It was same thing is with this podcast. I mean, we had a Discord and we just started saying, hey, everyone come in the Discord. We'll figure out what to do with it and just join in and let's start playing around with building community. And all of a sudden we just have all these people from around the world that are communicating and chatting every day. And we're doing all these events and bringing all these people. And it's just like, it is pretty amazing to see it kind of all unfold and come together. The community launched a token. And so now we're forming this DAO. And
Wow.
And it's just like, it's this whole, just like you said, it's not us who did it. It's just sort of like a shared mission, shared ideas. Everyone's having fun together. And it's like, let's just build some things together. Let's experiment together. And it's absolutely amazing. I love it. Okay, so let's wrap up here a little bit. Jeff, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for filling in for Jay, joining us here and sharing your insights on the hot news of the last week. Before we close out, why don't you just give us a quick little, like, if anyone wants to get involved in Jump, because we do have some marketers and advertisers and stuff as well that are listening to Web3 Academy, how do they get in? Can they get a Sky Club NFT? Where do they join Jump? What can they do here?
So there's a couple layers of participation and ways to engage. If you want to just sort of be in and around, keep up to date, jumpcommunity.xyz is when you go there and you basically create an account on the website, you unlock the news feed. So basically you're going to get a curated list of all the best stuff being shared and talked about in Jump. And then you'll also get the latest Jump news. And so that's a great way to just sort of keep up to date and participate. If you want to go deeper, once you create an account, there's a Sky Club page. Click on that Sky Club page, read the first paragraph, and there's an application to join one of the next mint windows. And so if you don't know a friend who can invite you in, right? If you don't know a current Sky Club holder that can invite you in, apply there, and current Sky Club holders will have the option to basically invite you, right? And this is really one way to think about the building of Jump is it's not too. It in a way it's kind of like building a company, right? Like if you're building a company, you don't just let everybody who wants to be a part of Apple just walk into Apple and set up a computer and start like hanging out and working. Like you just don't do that. And so like the Jump community and Sky Club holders right now is somewhere in between this like more permissionless, like member owned and controlled and like this kind of company versus like this just like free for all of like, here's an NFT and whoever wants to like access it can access it. So we do have those basically invitation through a friend or an application process. And when you fill
that's how you build good community though, right? Like is by cultivating the right people who, like you said, share the same mission, share the same values, things like that. If you just throw it out to everyone that's in, I don't know, at some concert, there's 20,000 people. Not everyone wants to be in the same community together, It's got to be the right people. And so it's a good vibe that way.
Yep. So that's it. That's the gist.
Here's the alpha. I'm minting on this second round because I just didn't do it in time for the first one. And so that means I'm going to have one friend that I can invite. So feel free to DM me.
We have the option to increase from 1 invite to 2 invites. We did 1 invite for this first round because we wanted to make sure the toolkit worked properly.
Yeah.
And we've ironed out all the issues, which we did have some issues to start. Possibility we might increase it to 2 next time.
All right. Well, hopefully I have 2 friends.
Yeah.
Listeners, we're going to wrap up here, but listeners, if you can do me a quick favor, go click follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Turns out that the algorithms for Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all they care about is if you follow or you subscribe. That's the thing that matters the most. So go do that. If you're already subscribed or following on Spotify, go do it on Apple Podcasts too. Do it on YouTube too, if you'd like, whatever. That would just be amazing for us. Web3 Academy community who's listening, big shout out to Jeff Kauffman for joining us. You can follow him on Twitter too at Jeff Kauffman, Kauffman Jr. JR, sorry, not actually Junior, just JR. The link will be in the show notes anyway. Give him a follow on Twitter. He's always tweeting the best stuff going on in Web3. And as you can tell from this episode, he's a bright mind. And I don't know, do you think about anything other than Web3 and marketing? I feel like this can be all you think about. Maybe denim every once in a while.
I am looking for my next pair of jeans. Yeah. No, that's pretty much all I think about, that and my dog and my fiance.
I was going to say, you have to say
I just smashed the subscribe button.
My man.
So we're in.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, listeners, and everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. By the way, if you have yet to join the Discord community, you are missing out. This is where all the magic happens. This is where we learn, where we ask questions, where we network. You want to be in there. The link to join is in the description below. And finally, a quick disclaimer. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.